Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel World of Wrestling, here today to discuss about AEW Rampage August 20th, 2021 from the United Center, the first dance with good old CM Punk. Yes, folks, CM Punk is officially back in pro wrestling after 7+ years of being away from wrestling. He has announced that he is back. He is for AEW 100%. He will be on their Dynamite episode this coming Wednesday on, I believe it's August 25th. So that is going to be interesting. And with them being at the 8 o'clock hour instead of a 10 o'clock hour on a Friday night, where most people are probably out living their lives instead of doing what I do here at home watching AEW. Not that I have a lot of time to do anything after work because I'm busy doing a lot of other shit. I didn't even get to watch SmackDown. Not that I really care that I missed SmackDown anyway. So who gives a flying fuck about that show? Besides, they want to put SummerSlam on Saturday night, and I ain't got time to sit there and watch 2 hours of SmackDown to give you guys a fucking review. So, oh well, who cares? Let's move on with our lives and talk about AEW Rampage. So CM Punk is the first thing that came out on the show. I figured he was going to be the ending of the show, and unfortunately that was not the case. But who gives a shit? This was an excellent way to start the show, even though I didn't think it would have been. But CM Punk had the reaction. The reaction of a Hulk Hogan-like reaction from 2002. This was unbelievable. This crowd erupted as loud as like The Rock's entrance to a major match at WrestleMania or something. I mean, this was the level of those kind of guys. Larger than life. These fans love CM Punk. I am not a liar. I will admit I love CM Punk as well as an in-ring performer. But the one thing that stuck out at me that pissed me off was the things he said about pro wrestling. He said he didn't like wrestling anymore. He didn't want to be part of fake bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And he wanted to go to MMA. He fails in UFC. He goes out of MMA fighting after 2 fights. He becomes a commentator for a small promotion, not doing a whole lot of anything. Still news year after year after year for 7 whole years. CM Punk's coming back to WWE. No, he's not coming back to WWE. He shows up on a fucking Fox Sports type of show for 11 o'clock hour with CM Punk. People are thinking maybe CM Punk's coming back to WWE. Nope, wrong again, assholes. And then 2019, we thought maybe we'd see a CM Punk at All Out, and nope, he wasn't there. We figured at that point, I figured CM Punk was done. He really meant what he said. He didn't care for wrestling. He didn't give a fuck about it. And now he's here. Now, here's the one thing I liked, and I was expecting him to say, and if he wouldn't have said it, I would have been pissed. I'd have hoped he got his ass kicked and failed miserably. He mentioned the things he said. He said, if any of the words that came out of my mouth between the time I left pro wrestling and came back, if I offended any of you, I apologize. It wasn't meant for you guys. My passion for wrestling was killed. I was worked to death for a company while I was unhealthy, and they wanted me to continually perform in front of an audience while I was sick as a fucking dog. And that's proven fact that he had a lot of, he had like 2 or 3 interviews with Colt Cabana where he discussed that and stated that he had a lot of issues with the way they were conducting business with him. He didn't like the fact he was working while he was sick. He wasn't feeling good. He had a lot of issues with his health. He needed some time off, and they weren't giving it to him. And that in itself was like a sign that I don't blame him for being upset but it felt at the same time, you want to say wrestling is bullshit? Who gives a fuck about it anymore? I mean, that's kind of harsh to say when a lot of the fans like myself supported you, stated you were one of the best, and when you got mistreated by WWE, people stood up for you. People didn't like seeing you get treated like that. People didn't like what Daniel Bryan went through. Look, bottom line, guys, the first victim in pro wrestling, WWE, that finally showed its true colors of what WWE is made of within the higher-ups in that company is when they treated CM Punk like shit. Creatively, they fucked up Daniel Bryan and tried to keep him away from a title match that should have been granted to him based on storyline alone. This guy was he had a rivalry going on with Randy Orton in the summer of 2013 throughout the entire fall. The guy goes ahead, busts his ass, loses, gets the title back, loses it again in Night of Champions at one point, gets it stripped from him off of bullshit, and then Randy Orton is officially the world champion at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And then at the Royal Rumble, you'd think he'd have showed up and fucking won the Rumble, and we didn't get that. We didn't get CM Punk at any point highlight in any kind of capacity of being a world champion again, being a heel, and going up against Daniel Bryan in probably the biggest match of all time in pro wrestling. And we couldn't get that. So there you go. Those are the two victims of showing what WWE was leading to where they are now. That's the truth, man. It's the fucking truth. That's number one. Number two, he went ahead and he said, look, I'll tell you a story. And I started saying, oh, God, we're not getting a Drew McIntyre impersonation, are we? Story time with CM Punk now? We got story time with Drew McIntyre. At least this one was not like a fucking Drew McIntyre story time telling show, whatever you want to say. So he sat down in the middle of the ring and he says, I came into Ring of Honor. I performed there in 2005. I don't remember the exact date he stated, but in 2005, I had my very last match in wrestling. He said, I cried my eyes out when the match was over. I felt deeply horrible at the fact that I was leaving Ring of Honor, but I had to. And bottom line, Ring of Honor probably was not paying him the kind of money WWE is going to give him. And at the time, WWE wasn't a bad show to work for. I mean, in the sense of creativity. I mean, I liked WWE back in 2006. By 2010, things were getting a little rough around the edges. 2011 got a little bit better. 12 was okay. 13, it was all right. It wasn't terrible. 2014 was where the whole show, the whole company was going off the rails. It was just turning into shit. You're losing CM Punk, you're losing Daniel Bryan. It's a bullshit where you want to make Randy Orton Batista the main event of WrestleMania 30. I mean, come on, man. That's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, going back to old bullshit. He skipped everything else that took place in WWE. He didn't mention them because all he was trying to say is he was leaving pro wrestling when he left Ring of Honor because WWE isn't pro wrestling. WWE is nothing to do with wrestling. WWE is ashamed to be wrestling. And the funny thing is, they have a wrestling ring. They have ropes around it. They have entrances, music playing, people going out on entrances into the ring, and performing wrestling holds. But it's not wrestling. Boy, oh boy, folks. If you haven't heard denial, there's denial right there for you. WWE is not pro wrestling, but unfortunately it is. Because you're doing everything what a pro wrestling company does. So, sorry to say, it's like Dana White saying UFC isn't MMA, they're something completely different. when they're inside of a cage, they got gloves on, they're smashing each other's faces in, and they're pile driving each other into the mat. Not like pile drive, but you get what I mean. Slamming each other into the mat and everything else. And driving people onto the floor. I mean, come on. Get your head out of your ass, please. Anyway, not meaning you, the audience, get your head out of your ass. I mean, like, WWE, Vince McMahon, get your head out of your asses. But, bottom line, CM Punk killed it. He apologized. He did the right thing there. He addressed anyone that he might have hurt people's feelings towards that are real hardcore wrestling fans. And he knew he struck a nerve. And he came out right away in the promo, and he said, look, I am truly sorry. I know I probably said some things that may have upset some people because they're true fans of wrestling. I lost my passion for wrestling. And that is why I said the things I said, and I'm sorry to all of you for what I said to you that hurt your feelings. So kudos to him on that, number one. Number two, I think it was the right thing to do because like myself, I just did not understand why he would shit on his audience by saying that. It's kind of a smack in our faces because we were all supporting him and the treatment that he was getting from WWE. But I'm not going to reiterate all that bullshit. So kudos to him and what he did there. And then he addressed his attention to Darby Allin. And he said he's going to be at All Out on September 5th. CM Punk, boy oh boy, man. Just when I thought I was getting out, you pull me back in. I'm figuring out, just, catch it on some fucking shit somewhere else and give you guys a review on it Sunday night after the show's over. I believe we have Labor Day the next day, so I might actually do a live show on this. I'm doing a live show tomorrow for SummerSlam. Why the fuck not? We'll do a live show on All Out. I'm pretty sure we got Labor Day the next day after September 5th. I think September 6th is Labor Day. So if that's the case, guys, guess what? You got another live show right here on World of Wrestling. So if you want to catch it and be part of the review, by all means, come join me, man. I'm willing to do something that's totally out of the box from other YouTube content creators. You're not going to have to give me any, super chats, none of that bullshit. You are part of the review. You want to come in, you want to leave me a comment while I go over the match and then leave a comment about that match. I will definitely read that on the show. So you guys are part of this show along with me. I'm not doing this alone. I mean, unless nobody wants to show up. I mean, I hope that's not the case. But hey, if it is, oh well, I'll just do what I gotta do, and you guys can watch it later at some point, but I'd rather you be there and actually interact with me, because that's what this channel is about, interaction. You guys are part of this show. I'm not here alone. So, I want you guys to feel comfortable coming in here, shooting the shit with me, and telling me what you guys thought of the show while we go through the entire card. Excuse me. Sorry about my incredibly horrible speaking skills here. Anyway, yes, CM Punk, man, the match is guaranteed. There was no questions asked. Very simple storyline, folks. The best in the world versus the young buck, Darby Allin, trying to earn that right to claim he is one of the best, beating one of the best. I think it's a great storyline, and Sting was also addressed by CM Punk. That was also another cool thing that took place on this fucking show. I couldn't believe it. He actually addressed freaking Sting, and he says, Sting, I'll see you at All Out. That was fucking awesome. Really an awesome image there, too, with him pointing out to Sting as well. So yeah, great way to start the show. Fans were highly excited for this. It was like watching Hulk Hogan come back in 2002. It was unbelievable. The very first match of the show to officially start the card, the wrestling card, which was only 3 matches. Folks, I'm going to tell you, with all this shit going on, I don't think people are going to care for Rampage to be 2 hours. I really don't. I don't see how anyone would be against this. I know it's not, I know it sounds like you're kind of stuffing the week with a lot of wrestling content with AEW, and that may be a possible issue you might cause, but let's think about it, folks. This isn't NXT. This isn't the developmental system. This is the main roster, the real enchilada, the whole effing show, man. This is the real thing. This ain't no developmental shit where you go ahead, you perform probably the best matches you'll ever create in WWE, and then move on to the main roster and be treated like shit. This isn't like that. This is AEW, the top of the pillar of the fucking promotion. If you're on the show, you're part of the best. That's it, plain and simple, folks. So, bottom line, I could see Rampage going 2 hours at some point. Not right away. I wouldn't want them to just jump right to it. But if they start noticing they can... If this show at 10 o'clock with CM Punk's fucking appearance gets them to be, at like a mil... or even close to that. Last week, they were at 742,000, I believe it was. That's not bad for a 10 o'clock show. Being posted into the 10 o'clock hour? Are you kidding? That's fucking impressive. I was expecting a mil. I was a little disappointed, I won't lie. But when you really think about it, they're at the 10 o'clock spot. Who's gonna watch? They gotta move that somewhere else. 7 o'clock hour or something like that. But, hey, if you really want to get really down and dirty, let's get fucking competition going. Let's have some Friday Night Wars. Let's see SmackDown versus Rampage. I don't give a shit. I want to see WWE get their ass smeared. They need a fucking rude awakening, man. They need it. They're not competition. You just got one of the biggest fucking names that came out of WWE onto your show. And no, he's not a fucking reject. This guy was the fucking best of the best. And yet because he's an average Joe looking kind of guy that keeps himself fit, but is only like 5'10", maybe 5'11", and looks like just a normal everyday person and doesn't act like a stuck-up asshole like good old Vincent Kennedy McDouche, guess what? He gets treated like garbage? Fuck that. AEW sees something in him. They see something in Daniel Bryan, who's now Bryan Danielson, which I gotta get used to calling him that, so I apologize to any of the, people out there that don't like me calling him by his WWE slave name, but hey, I didn't mind the name. I didn't think it was that bad of a name anyway, so if you guys felt offended by it, I apologize, but hey, I'm not CM Punk, and I don't go ahead and shit on pro wrestling. Except for WWE, because they don't even look at themselves as a pro wrestling company. So anyway, let's get down to the actual card, because I haven't even gotten into that yet. So, Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus went up against the Private Party. Exactly what I predicted. Jurassic Express is moving on into the next round. So they will be going on Rampage next week against the winners of Dynamite between the Lucha Brothers and I believe the Varsity Blondes. So that is the match that will be taking place on Dynamite. So I'm predicting this. The Lucha Brothers will win that match. Then the ultimate decision is who gets to face the Young Bucks at the pay-per-view for the steel cage match? I don't know. I actually do not know. I have no clue whatsoever. I'm really okay with either one of those two going ahead and competing for the title, so it's a kind of a win-win situation, I guess. But I'd prefer Jurassic Express winning that match and going on to face for the World Tag Team titles, because honestly, I felt that they deserved to win the tag team titles on Dynamite, but they just kind of got screwed in that match. But no big deal, no harm, no foul. Christian Cage had a small, segment. I wasn't really paying attention to that, so I'll just skip over it. It was nothing special. Kenny Omega made an appearance as well. So, whatever. It's no big deal. It's going to be a good match. I think the storyline is okay. I'm not going to say it's terrific. I'd have preferred Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega. They could have postponed that match, for September 22nd. Had CM Punk and Darby Allin headline the fucking main event of All Out. I mean, this match, folks, come on. I understand the world title should be looked at and presented as the main attraction of the entire show, especially on a pay-per-view. But come on, man. This is CM Punk against Darby Allin, a youngster. He's in his early 20s, man. He's just a little kid. I mean, I'm 33, and the guy I think is like 23, 24. I mean, he's just a kid. Starting his career out, and he's doing great stuff at a young age, man. Sad part is WWE wouldn't even look for a guy like that. That's fucking sad. Anyway, getting off of WWE bullshit. Keep going back to that. I think you guys are probably fed up with me doing that shit. I don't blame you. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way that this company can go ahead and do shit like this, but we can't get that from WWE. That's the only reason why AEW exists, is because WWE failed as a wrestling company. So AEW with Tony Khan is picking up the fucking pieces so people don't have to be miserable watching pro wrestling. That's the reason why this company exists. Anyway, moving on. We had Jade Cargill go up against Kiera Hogan. Kiera Hogan, if you're not familiar with her on Impact Wrestling, that's where she came from. She was actually pretty good. I don't know if you guys paid attention with some of the reviews I've done with them, but I've talked, highly about Kiera Hogan. I don't think she's trash. I think she's very good on the mic. She can cut decent promos, and she's not bad in the ring either. But she was really placed in a creative issue with her. They kind of had her in limbo with this tag team title shit. They didn't have really, like I said before, Impact Wrestling does not have a good women's tag team division. So it kind of made her run with Impact Wrestling with the tag team titles a little stale, I would say. I don't think horrible or anything. They didn't do a terrible job with her. There's just creatively they kind of fucked up. And not in any WWE style way, just in the sense of like they just kind of didn't have nothing going on. They kind of seemed stuck. They didn't know what to do with the tag team division. They still don't seem to know what to do with that tag team division. I mean, they just came out with Tenille Dashwood and Madison Rayne last week. Not yesterday, but last Thursday on August 12th. I don't know what they did on August 19th. I'll be uploading that on Tuesday. And they also had the Emergence tonight, which I didn't get a chance to watch, and I probably won't, because there's so much fucking wrestling content. I can't keep up with all this shit. Between working today, doing my own personal stuff at the house, and cleaning up the house before I watched the show, I just was like, I can't keep up with all this crap. Some of it's just gotta stay off my channel, and maybe somewhere down the line I may do a review on it. Who the fuck knows? But, yeah. Kiera Hogan wasn't bad in Impact Wrestling. She wasn't bad here either. I didn't have a problem with her. They made it a very short match too, though, that you really didn't get much out of her. Jade just looked very dominant, and Kiera Hogan, for the little action that she put in, she wasn't bad. She was actually good. She was just jobbing out to Jade. Jade actually needed that huge win. It lasted less than 2 minutes. She finished her off with her finishing maneuver and pinned her 1, 2, 3, and that was it. And that was the match. And they did a good job with her, despite the fact they've kept her off television for a very, very long time. I don't know why the fuck they did that for. Thought that's a little fucking stupid, but whatever. Then we had a segment with Mark Henry doing a little bit similar to what he did with Brett Baker and Red Velvet from last week's Rampage, where he interviewed both of them. And he did this with Jon Moxley and Daniel Garcia. And Moxley, man, he has been on fire the last 2 episodes between Dynamite and tonight's Rampage. He's fucking cutting promos like left and right, man. He's talking all kinds of shit about everybody in AEW this past Wednesday, and tonight he came on there and he says, I'm going to destroy your fucking ass. He's got a lot of fire and intensity. Is this like is he trying to reestablish himself in the World Championship division? Is he trying to get his way back to the top to win the world title back or some shit? This is fucking crazy stuff. But yeah, this was some really good stuff that they were doing here with him. Jon Moxley has been hitting on all cylinders lately with his promos. Full of intensity, right on point, and he just doesn't give a shit if you're a face, heel, it doesn't make a fucking difference. He just was like, fuck you, I'll kick your ass even if you're on my side. Outside of Eddie Kingston, but I mean, this guy's just going all out crazy with this shit. But yeah, I mean, he has no intentions to play nice with others. That's really his motto here right now in AEW at this point. So yeah, the match, Daniel Garcia and Jon Moxley main event, it wasn't bad. It was okay. Jon Moxley ended up putting him in a kind of a somewhat of a crossface, only he wrapped his arm around his neck and pulled upwards on his neck and cranking his neck up in the air and just making him very uncomfortable, and he ended up tapping out. So it was almost like a crossface, only without the his legs holding his other arm down to prevent him from moving anywhere and only having the access to use one hand. So he pretty much, whatever. He just pretty much made him submit. Lost track of thought there for a moment. But yeah, that was pretty much the ending. And then the 2.0 got involved. The numbers game, Eddie Kingston got in there, tried to help, but that wasn't good enough either. And then Sting and Darby Allin came down and they attacked the 2.0 and Daniel Garcia to help them out, to even out the odds. And that was that. And the show went off the air. Darby Allin hit a coffin drop on one of their enemies, and that was it. And Darby Allin celebrated in the ring, and that was all there. That's all she wrote, man. That was the end of the show. That was a decent show, especially with the CM Punk. The rest of the card, I would have to say they weren't really trying that hard. I think they were depending a lot more on CM Punk and that tag team tournament match. I think the last 2 matches were just kind of like fillers to, fill in the time. I think CM Punk should have been the main event on the show, truthfully. And we should have seen that actually take place. And CM Punk just cut the same kind of promo he did in the beginning. But hey, I'm not going to be too picky about it. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I'm not going to shit all over it for that. But bottom line, this was a decent show. I'm very satisfied with what they had to offer here. And I hope they continue to provide good 1-hour shows on Rampage. And of course, Dynamite has been consistently good from the very beginning. I mean, there's been some episodes where they were hit and miss and whatnot, but you're not going to get a great show every single week. So I wouldn't count on that. But these shows have not been terrible. If they've been lower grade than the previous ones that were better than the episode that happened beforehand, that happens. But it wasn't, these episodes have not been god-awful terrible, like unwatchable, okay? So that's how I feel about it. Let me know what you guys feel about Rampage tonight. Hit the like button if you like the video, of course. And as always, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And leave a comment down below. I'll always get back to you on that. And I thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.